Chapter 6 Hokuriku Shinkansen to Toyama. Welcome back to Liliko's Bedtime Mumble. This is Chapter 6, continuing our very first morning in Japan, aboard the Hokuriku Shinkansen bound for Toyama. In the last chapter, I woke up refreshed after a deep, blissful sleep, followed by a heavenly Japanese breakfast at my ryokan, a meal so good it felt like I was Link from The Legend of Zelda, drinking the ultimate master potion. In an instant, my health bar was fully restored, my stamina wheel refilled, and I was suddenly bursting with Genki energy, ready to take on any adventure the day could offer. The traditional Japanese breakfast set meal, Asa Teishoku, is something everyone should experience at least once in Japan. Asa means morning. Teishoku means set meal. Together, they form a perfectly balanced morning ritual. A bowl of fluffy white rice, steaming miso soup with tofu and seaweed, a tender slice of grilled fish, and a colorful collection of side dishes, pickled vegetables, natto, and seasonal greens. Simple, nourishing, elegant. The one I had, however, was so delicious that I completely lost my composure. Let's just say, my inner lady vanished without a trace, and the eating frenzy that followed was far too intense to describe again. To protect what's left of my already fragile sense of grace and elegance, I'll simply say, if you missed that episode, please visit Chapter 5. I can't bear to relive the scene. Now, let's move on before I embarrass myself any further. We're aboard the Hokuriku Shinkansen, riding the Kagayaki, the fastest service on the line, traveling northwest from Tokyo toward Toyama at up to 260 kilometers per hour. I'm seated in car 6, seat 14C, with excitement heading home, to Grandma. As the Kagayaki departs from platform 20 of Tokyo Station, the familiar hum of motion fills the cabin. After the first stop at Omiya, the view outside begins to change. The dense cityscape fades. Tall buildings dissolve into low houses, then into fields. Pavement becomes soil, glass becomes green. Tokyo's pulse slows, and the countryside begins to breathe. Outside, the world drifts by in soft watercolor blurs. Soon, Mount Asama appears in the distance, its snow-capped peak crowned with a halo of cloud, like a quiet guardian watching over the land. Below, rice paddies shimmer like emerald mirrors, reflecting both earth and sky. In some of them, farmers are bent at the waist, planting seedlings one by one, patient, rhythmic, timeless. I watch them with quiet awe. Their movements are small, almost meditative, a humble conversation between people and the soil. Each seed they press into the earth holds the potential for life, for nourishment, for comfort. And it suddenly hits me. The rice I devoured this very morning could have come from one of these fields I'm passing right now. It's such a beautiful, circular thought, to eat from the same land I'm now gliding above. A few hours ago, I was a traveler tasting Japan. Now, I'm a traveler seeing Japan, the hidden story behind every grain. Perhaps that's what makes Japanese food so extraordinary. It's not just about taste, but about gratitude, the silent connection between hands that grow, hands that cook, and hands that eat. For a moment, I feel like bowing back toward those distant figures in the paddies, a tiny gesture of thanks for breakfast, for effort, for beauty. But as fascinating as the scenery is, even I can't just sit and stare for 2.5 hours straight. That's how long it takes to reach Toyama. 2 hours and 30 minutes of soft hums and passing landscapes. Plenty of time for the scenery, a nap, and of course, my mind to begin its favorite pastime, wandering. Now, sitting comfortably in Car 6, Seat 14C, watching the world unfold beyond the window, I can't help but compare this sleek silver Shinkansen to something else. It feels magical, like a modern-day Hogwarts Express. My mind drifts to Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, that first moment when Harry boards the red steam train to Hogwarts, leaving the ordinary world behind. A single step from platform to carriage, and suddenly everything changes, a portal between the familiar and the fantastical. And then I imagine it's me, sitting by the window of the Hogwarts Express, bound for a hidden world of spells, castles, and wonder. The air smells faintly of adventure and pumpkin pasties. Outside, the countryside rolls by in soft green and gold. Inside, possibilities hum like quiet electricity. Who would I be in that world? Harry? Nay, everyone already knows Harry's story. 7 books, 8 movies, countless spoilers. The world doesn't need another chosen one. As the Kagayaki glides northward, past rice paddies, rivers, and mountains, I realize that maybe this journey is my own version of the Hogwarts Express. No owls, no wands, no chocolate frogs. Just a girl on a train, heading home, watching the world rush by, carrying stories, dreams, and the little bit of magic in her heart. But what about Hermione? Now that's far more interesting. Imagine seeing the Hogwarts Express from her eyes, the girl who wasn't waiting for magic to find her, but who had already studied half of it in advance. She knew every spell, every charm, every rule before she even stepped on the train. While others wandered the aisles in wide-eyed wonder, she was probably alphabetizing her textbooks, memorizing the school map, and color-coding her first week schedule. For Hermione, destiny wasn't something that happened to her. It was something she meticulously prepared for. A part of me relates to that. Not the genius part, unfortunately, but that quiet, diligent faith. The belief that if you keep learning, planning, and staying curious, you can transform even the most ordinary journey into something quietly magical. Come to think of it, the fact that Hermione met Harry on the train and not at King's Cross Station makes perfect sense. There's no way she would have arrived at the last minute like Harry and Ron. Hermione probably had her travel route planned a month in advance. How many transits from her home to King's Cross? Which platform signs to follow? Which bus arrived 2 minutes earlier? Her trunk would have been packed and labeled days ahead, her cloak ironed smooth, her wand polished to perfection. I can just picture her arriving at King's Cross 2 hours early, double-checking her luggage, and being the very first to board, punctual, practical, and perfectly prepared. But being the smartest one in the room isn't always easy, especially when you're a girl. No one warms up to the girl who has every answer before the question finishes. No one races to sit next to the one who corrects your wand grip during conversation. Being clever can be isolating. It shines too brightly, and sometimes that light makes others hesitate before stepping closer. And so here I am, Hermione, sitting alone on my very first journey to Hogwarts, surrounded by fellow students, yet feeling like the only one on the train. No round glasses, no messy hair, yet I still radiate unmistakable bookworm energy, only sharper. From the outside, I probably look perfectly calm, composed, confident, the kind of girl who already has everything planned out and color-coded. But beneath that polished surface, my brave facade trembles just a little, because inside, I'm just as nervous and excited as everyone else, stepping into a world I've only ever read about. I long to make friends so I won't face this unknown world alone. Maybe, just maybe, someone will sit down beside me, smile, and say hello. Then I can finally show them that I'm not as strict or intimidating as I look, that I can be warm, talkative, and yes, genuinely friendly. Of course, being me, I am the first one to board the Hogwarts Express. I choose a seat right across from the entrance, in the perfect position to be seen. Impossible to miss. Impossible to ignore. One by one, students arrive, filling the carriages with laughter, chatter, and excitement. Still, as the train pulls away, the seat beside me remains empty. It stings a little, that quiet realization that no one tries to be my friend. But I'm not the type to wallow or let disappointment spoil my day. I'm a problem solver, not someone who waits for the answers to fall from the sky. If no one approaches me to be their friend, I simply go find them myself. And honestly, there's a bright side to that. At least this way, I get to choose who my friends will be. So I leave my compartment and wander down the corridor, soon stumbling upon a commotion. A boy named Neville, distraught over his missing toad. Perfect. A side quest for an over-prepared student like me. I offer to help, partly because I can, and partly because it feels good to be needed before my magical journey even begins. I don't find the toad in that carriage, so I continue to the next. And that's where I meet them, Harry and Ron. Boy, oh boy, these two are really something extraordinary. And I don't mean that as a compliment. They are extraordinary, ordinary with extra oddness. Harry, the boy who doesn't even know he's a wizard until a few weeks ago. And Ron, jam on his robes, crumbs in his lap, and a wand that looks like it has survived multiple small explosions. Honestly, I start to wonder if Hogwarts has quietly fallen on hard times. Maybe a post-GFC budget cut, or a temporary dip in the magical stock market, and is now admitting anyone with a pulse and a wand just to keep the lights on. These two look like they've just escaped a wizarding nursery during snack time, dragging chocolate frogs, broken wands, and absolutely zero sense of preparation. On the bright side, I realize I'll probably be top of the class for years to come, if this is the academic standard of my peers. On the not-so-bright side, if everything is going to be this effortless, how am I supposed to strive for greatness when the bar is buried somewhere underground? Let's take a closer look at these two shining future hopes of the wizarding world. Harry Potter, the boy who lived, the chosen one, the savior of the wizarding world. And yet, all messy hair and round glasses slipping off his nose like he just rolls out of bed. You'd expect someone legendary to look, well, heroic, tall, charming, exuding confidence and power. But Harry? He looks dorky, with or without his glasses. Now, if you're nerdy but geeky, that's fine. At least you've got some special talent or power that could save the world. Harry looks nerdy all right, but he isn't geeky at all. He holds no knowledge or wisdom about magic, and he's supposed to be the chosen one? Harry's glasses are broken, yet he can't fix them himself. I have to do it for him. Oculus Reparo. A small spell, but honestly, a rather grim preview for the wizarding world's future. But Harry Potter, so famous, so celebrated, and yet I see nothing that actually justifies that fame. Not his appearance, nor his ability. He seems famous for being famous. Am I, perhaps, looking at the Paris Hilton of the wizarding world? Honestly, it's a rather disappointing first impression. And yet, there's something in him, a quiet defiance, a spark of conviction in those eyes that says he'll figure things out, even if he has no idea how. That's what makes him different. On the train, Harry stands up to Draco Malfoy. Most people instantly tell that Draco is the kind of person you either befriend or wisely avoid. But Harry isn't intimidated. He doesn't bow to power or flinch at arrogance. He simply does what he believes is right, even when it isn't within his strength to do so. Maybe that's why he is the chosen one. Not because of knowledge or skill, but because of courage. Raw, instinctive courage. As for my first encounter with Ron, don't get me started. There is so much I need to complain about with this guy. I'll save him for later. Anyway, that's how I first meet these two boys, Harry and Ron, on the Hogwarts Express, where our friendship quietly begins. Over the years, we study, we grow, we argue, frequently, and somehow become the kind of friends who can drive each other absolutely mad, and yet never drift apart. When I first meet them, they are, well, boys. Ron is worse, though Harry isn't much better. They aren't embarrassed about how little they know. They tease me, call me a know-it-all, complain that I'm bossy and annoying. And honestly, years go by, and they still act like boys. Aging, yes, but not necessarily maturing. I watch over them like a helicopter parent, nannying them 24/7. I don't enjoy being their mother figure, but someone has to make sure our so-called heroes do their homework. You can't save the world if you keep misspelling your charms. As for gentlemanly behavior, none whatsoever. Not once do they show any Titanic-style ladies and children first manners. If anything, it feels like being a single mom supervising two prematurely grown teenage sons. These two, Harry and Ron, are children through and through, never quite treating me like a lady, though, to be fair, I'm usually too busy saving their lives to notice. Well, there's ladies first, all right. I'm usually the first one rushing into danger, always on the front lines. Thank you so much for that kind of ladies first, boys. But honestly, it's fine. I've long accepted my fate as the designated responsible one of the trio. When chaos erupts, I'm the human version of a safety manual, armed with logic, spells, and a color-coded emergency plan. Because someone has to keep our brave but utterly reckless heroes alive long enough to make history. I'm the brain of the operation, the strategist, the planner, the one quietly holding everything together while the boys charge headfirst into danger. I pull the heaviest weight, yet somehow never get quite the respect or the recognition that I deserve. How many times do I, Hermione Granger, save the day? Let's review just a few highlights, shall we? In Chamber of Secrets and basically every other book, I save their academic careers. Honestly, without me doing most of their homework and tutoring them through spells and potions, Harry would flunk out of Hogwarts before he ever gets near Voldemort. Then, in Prisoner of Azkaban, I master time travel with a time turner, no big deal, and help rescue both Sirius Black and Buckbeak. Precision timing, spell work, stealth, all while taking a full course load. And let's not forget Deathly Hallows, when Bathilda Bagshot's house turns out to be a trap. I don't panic. I blast Nagini and apparate us away just in time. So how many times do I save your asses, boys? Oops, do I just say ass? Well, that isn't Hermione talking. That's me, Liliko. Because let's be honest, Hermione would scold someone for that kind of language long before ever saying it herself. But really, Hermione Granger? She's incredible, brilliant, brave, relentlessly resourceful. Some people call her bossy or a know-it-all, annoyingly correct all the time. But it isn't her fault. She's not trying to be difficult. She just knows what's right and doesn't see the point in pretending otherwise. That's what I admire most about her. She never shrinks herself to fit anyone's comfort. She's what every girl growing up is told she could be, if only she dares to be too much. And let's be honest, spotlight here, smart, beautiful, #1 female lead? I always think Harry and Hermione should end up together. Brains and bravery, logic and instinct, perfect balance. Superman and Wonder Woman, Wizard Edition. Destiny, balance, perfection. But maybe that's exactly why they don't. They are too similar, both stubborn, both self-reliant, both carrying the world on their shoulders. They lean on each other, but not into each other. They are partners in purpose, not in heart. And then, Hermione falls in love. Not with the chosen one, but with the boy who, at first glance, seems least prepared to stand beside her. Ron Weasley. The train hums on, but my mind lingers back in that carriage, where jam-stained boys and sharp-tongued girls first collide. Hermione's first impression of him? Crumbs on his robes, jam on his fingers, a wand held together with tape and hope. He never quite knows how to say the right things, and half the time, he says the wrong thing just as you start liking him. She can choose someone polished, eloquent, even clean. But love doesn't follow logic. One of the most memorable moments in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone is the chess game scene. The thrilling, dramatic moment when life-sized pieces crash across the board like they're auditioning for a wizarding version of Fast and Furious. And Ron, goofy, awkward, perpetually underestimated Ron, suddenly steps up. He sacrifices himself so Harry and Hermione can move forward. He does it without hesitation. For them. Though, let's be honest, it's mostly for Harry. Their bromance is stronger than half the romances in the series. Helping Hermione? That's basically the bonus feature that comes with the Harry package. But still, when a boy willingly gets smashed by a giant stone queen, partly on your behalf, even if you're only the side benefit, it is still heart-stirring for any girl. It's not a fairy tale moment, not exactly, but it vaguely resembles one, in the same way instant noodles vaguely resemble a real meal. Ron isn't a knight in shining armor. He's a knight in I forgot to iron my robes armor, riding not a noble steed, but a stone horse that doesn't even move unless you command it loudly enough. Whiny, scruffy Ron as Prince Charming? Yeah, that's a stretch. But weirdly, the courage is real. The gesture is true. And suddenly, he doesn't seem quite as annoying. Like maybe only 70% annoying instead of 98%. Maybe that's the first time Hermione realizes there's something in Ron that books can't measure. He doesn't shine in the classroom, but when it matters, his loyalty roars to life like an over-caffeinated lion. And that, maybe, plants the first tiny, ridiculous, adorable seed of love in her heart. In the end, it isn't about choosing who is smartest or strongest. It's about choosing the one who makes her feel safe in the storm, the one who makes her laugh when she forgets how. Love isn't perfection. It's the presence that stays through laughter and through the trembling hours, a hand that helps, a heart that remains, a quiet loyalty that never drifts away. Hermione never needs to be rescued. She isn't waiting for a prince. She isn't delicate or fragile or defined by romance. She stands shoulder to shoulder with her friends because she chooses to. Danger doesn't scare her. Prejudice only sharpens her resolve. She isn't just the girl who saves the boys. She is the woman who saves the story. As the Hokuriku Shinkansen begins its gentle descent into Toyama, the mountains slip behind me and the wide Toyama plains unfold like a living canvas. Endless stretches of rice paddies shimmer in the afternoon light, their flooded surfaces reflecting the sky in soft, fractured blues. The fields are stitched with narrow footpaths and bordered by quiet villages where smoke curls from kitchen chimneys and laundry sways lazily in the breeze. Everything feels unhurried here, as if time itself moves at the pace of planting and harvest. I rest my forehead lightly against the window. This isn't just an arrival, it's a return to stillness, to memory, to home. Finally, I'm here. Toyama. Thank you for staying with me through my bedtime mumble. It means so much to have a friend who quietly keeps me company. I've finally arrived in Grandma's hometown, and soon I'll see her again. I'm excited, but it's getting late, so I'll stop mumbling for tonight. If you enjoy this story, please tap the like button. It truly encourages me to keep creating more gentle journeys like this. I hope this story helps calm your thoughts and bring a little peace to your night. If it does, feel free to revisit anytime you like. Let this channel be a soft place you can return to, whether it's tomorrow night or whenever you need a story to help you drift off. If you'd like to join me for the next chapter of our adventure, please subscribe and tap the little bell so you'll be gently reminded when a new bedtime mumble arrives. You can also share this video with a friend who might enjoy winding down with a quiet story at the end of the day. Thank you for watching. Good night. Have a sweet and wonderful dream.